I was just a regular boy living in a small town. My name is Sam, and I was 14 years old when this story started. Every day felt the same. I woke up early, brushed my teeth, got dressed, and walked to school. My school was not too far from home, so I walked with my best friend, Alex. He lived on the next street, and we had been friends since we were 6. We talked about games, homework, and sometimes silly things like what we would do if we found a treasure or could fly like a bird. School was okay, but I never really liked math. I always liked English more. It felt nice when I could read a story and understand every word. Sometimes I would try to write my own stories, but I didn't show them to anyone. I felt shy. I thought maybe my stories were not good enough. One day, something happened that changed my normal life into something very different. It was a Friday, and I was walking home alone because Alex had to stay late for a science club meeting. The sky was cloudy, and it looked like it was going to rain. I didn't have an umbrella, so I walked a little faster. As I passed the old house at the end of the street, I heard a strange sound. It was like a whisper, but I couldn't tell what it was saying. I stopped and looked around. No one was there. I was about to keep walking when I saw something shiny near the fence. I stepped closer and saw a small metal key on the ground. It was not like any key I had seen before. It had a round top with tiny stars on it. I picked it up and looked at the house. It was old and empty. Everyone in town said no one had lived there for years. I didn't know why, but I felt like the key belonged to that house. I didn't want to go inside. I knew my parents would be angry if they found out. But my feet moved on their own. I walked up to the door, and my hand reached out. The door was locked, and I thought, okay, I'll try the key and leave. I put the key into the lock, and to my surprise, it turned smoothly. The door opened slowly with a creak. Inside, it was dark and dusty. The air smelled old. I looked around. The furniture was covered with white cloths, and the windows were dirty. I stepped in slowly. I felt scared, but also curious. Why did I find the key? Why did it fit this door? I took a few more steps and saw something strange. On the wall, there was a painting of a boy who looked just like me. Same face, same eyes, same smile. I stood frozen. Is this a joke? I whispered. But no one answered. Suddenly, I heard footsteps upstairs. I knew no one was supposed to be in the house. My heart beat fast. I wanted to run, but I also wanted to know what was going on. I moved slowly to the stairs. They creaked under my feet. As I climbed, I kept thinking, this is not safe. This is not smart. But I couldn't stop. I reached the top, and the sound stopped. There were 3 doors. One on the left, one on the right, and one at the end of the hallway. I chose the door on the right. I pushed it open, and it led to a room full of books. Old books. Dusty books. Some were open, and some were locked with tiny chains. In the middle of the room was a table with a journal on it. I walked over and opened it. The handwriting was neat and old-fashioned. The first page said, "To the one who finds the key, this is your story now." I blinked. My story? What did that mean? I turned page, and what I read next made me sit down quickly. It said, "Your name is Sam. You are 14 years old. You like English more than math. You found this journal on a rainy Friday." My hand started to shake. How did this book know about me? I looked around the room, but it was still empty. I kept reading. The journal talked about my life, my school, my friend Alex. Then it said, "Now that you are here, you must choose. Stay and learn, or leave and forget." I closed the book and stood up. I didn't understand. What would I learn? What would I forget? I felt like I was dreaming. Then I heard a voice. A soft voice. It said, "You are ready." I turned quickly. There was no one there. But the door at the end of the hallway opened by itself. Light came from inside. I walked out of the room and slowly went toward the open door. Inside was a small room with a round mirror on the wall. But it was not a normal mirror. It was shining like water, and I could not see my reflection. I stepped closer, and the mirror began to move. It showed pictures. First, I saw myself in school, then in the park with Alex, then sitting at my desk writing stories. Then, the pictures changed. I saw places I had never seen before. A forest with glowing trees. A library floating in the sky. A castle with golden lights. I touched the mirror, and my hand went through it like it was soft jelly. Without thinking, I stepped through. I felt a pull, like the wind was carrying me. In 1 second, I was no longer in the old house. I was standing in the middle of a green field. The sky was blue, and birds flew in strange shapes. Trees looked like they were made of glass. I looked down and saw I was still me. Same clothes, same shoes. But in my hand, I still held the key. A voice came again. This time, it was louder. Welcome, Sam. This is the world of words. I turned around and saw a woman standing under a tree. She wore a long blue dress and had silver hair. You are the chosen one, she said. I laughed a little. Me? I'm just a boy. She smiled. Yes, but a boy with a key. A boy who loves stories. That is what this world needs. I walked with her as she explained. This world was created by readers and writers. It was a world built by imagination. But something bad had started. Words were disappearing. Stories were fading. People forgot how to read and write from the heart. And the only way to save the world was to bring back true stories. She said I had a gift. The way I read, the way I understood stories, was special. But I'm just learning, I said. She nodded. That's enough. You only need to believe. We reached a large gate made of books. She gave me a small notebook and said, write your truth. Every word will help. The gate opened and I walked through. I found myself in a strange city. The buildings were made of paper, and the streets were lines of poems. People walked with books in their hands. But they looked sad. I asked one of them, what happened here? He said, our stories are being stolen by the shadow of silence. I didn't know what that meant, but I felt something cold nearby. I walked to the center of the city and saw a big black cloud hanging in the sky. Below, it was a statue of a man without a face. A sign said, this is the shadow. He eats forgotten words. I knew then what I had to do. I opened my notebook and started to write. I wrote about my home, my friend Alex, my walk in the rain. I wrote about the house, the key, the journal. As I wrote, the cloud in the sky started to shake. People looked up. Light began to shine from my notebook. The words I wrote flew out like birds and hit the black cloud. It screamed and started to break apart. I kept writing. I wrote with all my heart. My hand hurt, but I didn't stop. The people around me started to write too. They remembered their old stories. They shared them with each other. The city became bright again. When the cloud was gone, the woman appeared again. She smiled and said, you saved the city. But there are more places to help. I nodded. I didn't feel afraid anymore. I knew I was part of something big. I held the key tight in my hand and walked with her toward the next gate, ready to face the next chapter.